Everyone is talking about the Ethereum ETF and how it had been approved, and very soon, in a few months, it will go live trading. But there is one ETF people aren't talking that much about anymore, and there is positive news, the Bitcoin ETF. Initially, there were a lot of inflows into the Bitcoin ETF, as in traditional finance bought a lot of Bitcoin, scooped up Bitcoin supply, but then things turned around and the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust sales exceeded the inflows in all the other ETFs. However, things have changed in the last 2 weeks. We now see consistent inflows into the ETFs like BlackRock, etc., and we don't see outflows out of Grayscale anymore. Things are very positive. Let's have a look at the data and let's have a look at the potential implications for the Bitcoin price. What we've got over here are the Bitcoin ETF flows measured in Bitcoin, not measured in dollars. And most of the time we see outflows out of the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. So that's the red indication over here. And the other colors tend to be those other ETFs, the newer ETFs that are cheaper. Initially, there were a lot of transfers happening, so outflows out of Grayscale into those other ETFs to save fees. Then we saw a slight overhang of those new ETFs versus the outflows out of Grayscale. And now recently, in the last week, we barely see any outflows out of Grayscale anymore, but we still see the inflows in the other ETFs. This is exactly what we were hoping for. We were hoping that the demand for those new ETFs was not just capital reallocation from Grayscale to those new instruments. We hoped that this was actually demand that's independent of the outflows. And now we seem to have some kind of confirmation of that thesis. Have a look at this. This is just a different representation of the data. We don't look at the individual flows now, but at the total net flow. And initially, traditional finance mainly scooped up the coins. Then we saw neither inflows nor outflows, so the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust balanced out with all those other ETFs. But now, since the beginning of May, we see that pretty much every day we see positive inflows again. Very stable inflows. And here's the price development since beginning of May. Bitcoin went up by 18%. So this happened already before the rumors around an Ethereum ETF approval. If this line continues to stay above zero, then this price is likely going to continue to go up as well. If, of course, the long-term holders aren't selling. There will be a separate video on exactly that topic. We are going to look at various metrics like the value days destroyed, the realized price, etc. We're going to look at the long-term holders' behavior. Right now, what we see is that traditional finance seems to be balancing out in acquiring Bitcoin. Now, how quickly is that acquisition? How much impact does that have? Feel free to check out this link over here, dune.com/Hill-Dobby/BTC ETFs. This shows us various statistics around the Bitcoin ETF as well. We see our positive inflows recently, and we also have an annualized number. In the last 14 days, if we annualize the last 14 days, we see a projected annual supply absorption of 2.65%. So we've got the Bitcoin mining that produces less than 1% per annum. We've got the supply absorption by the Bitcoin ETF that's above 2%. We also have the Bitcoin that gets lost every year. That's also roughly 2%. So Bitcoin gets scarcer and scarcer over time. The circulating supply of Bitcoin goes down over time, and that's what makes it a rare asset. That's what makes it a nice hedge against inflation, as in the fiat inflation, right? The money printer. Now, I believe that the approval of the Ethereum ETF has some pretty broad consequences. I don't think that this will only be Bitcoin and Ethereum that gets approved here. I think that at some point in time, we will also see other cryptocurrencies that get approved, maybe Solana, maybe XRP, but let's have a look. I'm not the only one that has this opinion. For the record, I actually think Nate Geraci says the spot Ethereum ETF approval is a much bigger deal than the Bitcoin spot ETF approval. And that's because it's a complete capitulation on crypto. So there's going to be more ETF approvals very soon as well. And so, of course, this helps with Ethereum dominance. So as in the fraction of all of crypto that's in Ethereum, I believe it's not unreasonable to assume that we will see the highs that we had seen multiple times already in the past. Getting at least to the topper range of that trading range is, I believe, still a somewhat pessimistic projection. So that's another outperformance of 11% versus the rest of the market. Now, what asset is going to be next? That's a big question. It's probably not going to be BNB because BNB is very tightly associated with Binance, but it could be Solana. It could also be XRP. maybe Cardano, maybe Avalanche, maybe Polkadot. I'm not sure how keen the SEC is to approve meme coin trading via ETFs. But have a look at the movement in the last 7 days. Ethereum appreciated by 27%, but there was very little speculation on the next ETF. Solana actually went down by 4%. XRP only appreciated a little bit. Just have a look at this, right? This is not yet a trade for the next ETF. I think we will find out very soon what that next ETF will be. We simply have to follow the news very closely. We simply have to look at what BlackRock is doing, because BlackRock was the very first company that set up a limited in Delaware to hold physical Ether. That happened already several months ago, and so probably we'll get similar kinds of news once maybe a Solana ETF is upcoming, or once maybe XRP or Cardano gets that seal of approval. I believe times are bright. I believe Ethereum is likely going to outperform in the next weeks. Afterwards, we probably will see a rotation into the smaller altcoins as usual, but potentially also into the next ETF contenders. What do you think will be the next cryptocurrency that will get that ETF approval? Feel free to comment this down below. Looking forward to chatting with you over there. Feel free to also, of course, subscribe. I publish videos regularly. And last but not least, a like would be appreciated. It helps the channel grow. In case you're not yet part of our public Telegram group, there is a link down below. Looking forward also to chatting with you over there. See you in Telegram.